This is going to be the start of a new series of reviews I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be reviewing cult classic, old school 80s, 90s OVA animations. Some that I really recommend and think are awesome, some that are not quite so good. This time I'm going to start off with one that's pretty awesome. So my first review is going to be on Black Magic M-66. This one's based off of a manga written by Masamune Shirow, who you may know as the creator of Ghost in the Shell and Appleseed. This OVA I think is really awesome and has really flown under the radar, even in recent times where many of these old animations have gotten a new life of popularity. This one I don't see people mention nearly as much. Granted, this one's a little bit lower budget and doesn't really have the incredible animation that some stuff like, say, Bubblegum Crisis or the Ghost in the Shell movie had, but it's still really good, still a ton of really awesome action, and it's just, in my opinion, a lot of fun. So this OVA was released as a single episode. As I said, it was based off of the manga series Black Magic by Masamune Shirow, which was published as a single volume in 1983. The animation was then adapted into a single episode OVA in 1987. The OVA is a pretty loose adaptation. I think it's quite a bit better than the manga actually. The story opens up with a military aircraft carrying two battle androids when the aircraft goes down and crashes in the forest. Next, we're introduced to the main character, Sybil, who's a journalist, and she goes to the scene of the crash with her cameraman, Leaky, and they try to get close to the crash site to see what the military is doing there. They're captured by the military, and they find out that the androids that the military was transporting have become active. And the purpose of the androids are that they can be loaded with a program to target a single person and eliminate their target. And these androids, for their transportation, were loaded just with a dummy program that was loaded with the target being the granddaughter of the scientists that created the robots. So now the androids are setting off on their mission to kill the scientist's granddaughter. The military fights with the androids and they end up destroying one of them, but the other one escapes. And during the battle, the journalist makes her escape from the military and decides to try to find the scientist's granddaughter and try to get information that she could use for her story. She manages to track down the granddaughter to the city, where the granddaughter, whose name is Ferris, is at a restaurant visiting with some of her friends. This leads to some of the best scenes in the OVA when the android ends up attacking them and Sybil and Ferris have to flee from the android while the military tries to destroy it and Sybil tries to protect Ferris. This part has some really great action scenes because you have a lot of really exciting action sequences where the android nearly catches them, and you have a lot of really exciting close calls with the android, and you have a lot of exciting fights between the android and the military as they make their way up through this building trying to get away from the android. Eventually, as they get to the top of the building, the military has this gunship that's shooting at the android, and it ends up causing the building to start collapsing. And at that point, Sybil manages to set up a trap with explosives that ends up destroying the android. The finishing sequence where the android's about to catch them while the building's coming down around them, and then she manages to destroy it at the last minute, is a really exciting scene and one of my favorite in almost any OVA. And actually, really, the entire ending sequence where they're running up through the building is one of my favorite from almost any 80s OVA. This scene, along with the scene that happened earlier where the military fights the two androids, are both really incredible action scenes and almost make the OVA worth watching just for those two scenes. I think this is one of my favorite OVAs because of just how simple and fun it is. A lot of times with these old OVAs, they really struggle to tell a good story because of being so short. Many of these OVAs will only get one episode or at the most a couple episodes to tell their story, so usually there's not much character development and usually can't really tell too much of a complicated story. Sometimes these OVAs spend too much time with exposition and they waste all their runtime introducing characters that the OVA really doesn't have time to do anything with after they're introduced. So OVA just really gets right into it and just has a lot of fun action, and the simple plot works because it only has a 48-minute runtime, so there's not much time to really tell too much story or get too into the characters, so it ends up working out pretty well. This one really gets right into it and it's a lot more fun. This is one of the most fun OVAs I've ever seen. It definitely takes a lot of inspiration from 80s action movies, the most notable in this one being the Terminator. The action scenes have the same kind of great, exciting feel that the best 80s action movies had. The influences that the OVA takes from the Terminator are definitely evident, and you see a lot of similarities in the way that the M-66 android in this OVA kind of feels like Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator, where they are like an indestructible, unstoppable force chasing after the main characters. And you get this tense feeling thinking like, how are the main characters going to be able to stop it or escape from it? When I first watched this OVA, it gave me the same sort of excitement and joy that watching some of those 80s action films like the Terminator gave me when I saw them when I was a kid. Overall, I give this one 4 stars out of 5. It's an old school, awesome anime OVA with a lot of great action, and it's just really fun to watch. It's one you can always go back to. It has a simple, straightforward storyline, but it's very well executed and makes good use of its short 48-minute runtime. You definitely won't get bored watching this one. It often only really gets talked about as being an adaptation of Masamune Shirow's earliest work, but it really stands on its own right. It's actually quite different from his original works, so it really is its own thing and not something that has to lean solely on the greatness of its original creator. Sybil was a really cool and fun character, and it made me wish there was more material with her in it. It made me wish there was like a sequel or something else that we could have that would have more of her adventures taking place after this one. If you have watched this far, thanks so much for watching. I do want to make this a series where I review old school 80s, 90s OVAs and maybe some older series as well. So I do have a lot more videos planned and on the way soon, so please do like and subscribe so you could see some of those. Or if you're interested, you could check out my series on the Godzilla films that I'm still continuing. I'm planning on doing the entire Godzilla franchise, and maybe we'll get into the Gamera franchise and some other related kaiju films as well once I'm done with the Godzilla films. So until next time,